That's a good question, because I've heard people describe themselves as kind of one-word adjectives, and I think that it really depends on the situation. So I'm sure the students have studied situational leadership, and I think it really depends on who I'm working with, what the situation is, and making decisions around that. So if I'm dealing with something completely new to me that has a real technical issue, a financial issue, issuing of bonds for the college, that kind of thing, I need to be a really open, participative type of leader. If it has to do with academics, I'm much more comfortable in that space, so I can be a lot more directive, even though we have a vice president academic that I have to work with. So I hate going with models, but I think situational leader is probably the best way that describes me at a high level, and I do have a belief that you need to include other people in certain things, but I think we're going to come up with that later. Yeah. So the leadership culture here needs to really be driven from what type of culture we want at the college, and every organization has a culture. This one, I think, when I look at what great colleges and universities do, they have an environment that is open for people's opinion. They have a culture that is open to allow people to participate and contribute to that. They have cultures that are respectful and are encouraging of diversity of thought. So if that's the type of culture we want to work in, I need to ensure that the people I wrap myself around, the people on the President's Council, the deans and managers and chairs, and even faculty, we have to be looking at individuals we hire or have here on staff on, do they reflect that same approach to what is a good culture? And so to work in a leadership capacity or a position of added responsibility, those behaviors they need to show that I think are important are, do they listen to individuals, listen for the purpose of learning, not just simply listening? Are they prepared to move aside and recognize that there are other people here at this institution that probably know more about certain things than they do? So being open to that, respectful, taking the high road. Any time that an individual is prepared to take on a leadership role, they elevate themselves to some degree, and therefore they become more of a focus for good things, which we celebrate, and then negative things as well. And I think having a disposition to recognize that's the environment that you're in, be prepared to hear different perspectives on what people think about your decisions and how you act, that needs to be practiced by the leaders. So I've been really lucky in that. It was a fear of mine at first with a number of positions becoming opening, but I have been lucky in the type of people we've been able to attract into the most senior leadership positions. And I was looking first and foremost on, do they reflect those leadership ideals that I've just referred to, and they do. They're a good group, and those other individuals in the organization or outside the organization who want to be leaders here, I'll really be stressing the importance of some of those important characteristics of caring about people and showing respect. Our values of the organization, quite frankly: caring, learning, integrity, and respect. The three traits that good leaders have that I think are important right now are, I've not yet found a good leader who can't communicate at a certain level. Certainly leadership goes beyond the ability to be a good orator, to stand up and present certain things. But at the same time, if you have things on your mind, or you have to articulate your vision, or where are we going as an organization, what are the concerns that we have now, you need to be able to communicate that in a number of ways, like we're doing. Being able to stand in front of a larger audience. Can you communicate one-on-one? Can you write properly? Can you have a proper conversation on the telephone? All those mechanisms to communicate, I think, needs to be in that kind of repertoire of traits and abilities of a leader. That would be one. I think today, in this particular environment, I come to work every day with a lot of really smart people. I mean, you walk through the halls, there's some really smart people, lots of experience. So being able to engage individuals, hear their opinion, ask them for their advice is a trait that I would describe as being humble. Humble to the point that you don't need to know everything, and you need to be aware that you don't know everything. And are you able to be humble and grounded enough to recognize that? That would be the second one. And the third one, I've just come to realize in the last couple of years, and I would call it self-awareness. I've seen too many times people in leadership positions not being aware of how they're being perceived by people, how they're acting or talking, how it's either engaging and bringing people into the dialogue or discussion, or actually how their behaviors or conversations or comments are actually keeping people away. And often I see some folks, they just are not self-aware of what they are doing to either effectively engage or disengage people. So those would probably be the three most important ones: being effective communicator in all forms of communication, being humble and grounded, particularly in an organization like a college, and just being self-aware of what's going on around me and how do I need to react differently, and are people listening, or am I actually pushing them off? So those would be three traits I think are important. We have had a good run for 45 years. The paradox that we're faced, though, is that what got us here is not likely to get us to where we need to be in another 10 or 20 years. Although we have had a lot in common with Algonquin when we first started, so we're an open access institution and we focus on quality of teaching, those types of things are similar to where we were 10 or 15 years ago. There's a number of things that we don't look at all like we did in the past. So we've changed over the years. So a real leadership need is trying to figure out where do you need to be, not today, but in the future. What's the path that's going to get you there in the future, knowing that, as I say, that paradox, what got us to where we are today is not likely to do that. And do you have the ability to get people behind that vision? It's one of the great things I think that Algonquin has been able to do is we have a culture here where our faculty and staff, they are prepared to try new things. We have risk takers, and it's continuing that environment or culture or climate that allows people to know that they can try new things and they can be celebrated if they are successful or not. And that's really an important component of good leadership, is being able to move the organization forward in a way that's maybe uncomfortable, but at the same time other people are coming along with you, and I'm not looking over my shoulder saying, is anyone here with me? But in fact they are right there with you. In fact, sometimes leading from behind is important, that they're the ones pushing the envelope forward. And so when we talk about leadership, I think of McGregor Burns' quote. It went something like, leadership is the most studied phenomena and most least understood phenomena on the earth. That we have studied this for hundreds of years, and yet we know good leadership when we see it, but it's really hard to put your finger on it. But we do recognize it when we're able to see it, and it's a fascinating subject. So I'm really glad that students are studying it.
Thank you.
Welcome.